Independent television.
Thanks for joining us on Africa Independent Television. Welcome to Focus Nigeria. My name is Benga Aruleba. In less than 24 hours, the most topical issue in the polity in the recent time would have come full circle. The new electricity tariff regime will come into effect tomorrow, June 1st, 2012. Although the belief by the people is that the new tariffs would mean paying more for light, the government says this is not necessarily so because the tariffs are in different categories and will not necessarily translate to increase for everybody. But the government is not winning the arguments yet, mainly because there has been no significant improvement in the level of power supply in the country. And so, simply put, are the people being asked to pay more for a service that is ever so epileptic, or are we being asked to pay more for darkness? But a dispassionate assessment of the power sector shows that the issues are not as simple as this. They are not cut and dry issues. The power sector reforms are far-reaching and comprehensive, and government says, given more time, the results will become visible. If this is so, why then is the government putting the cart before the horse in this matter? Why not wait first for these reforms to bear fruits or translate to at least some improved power supply for Nigerians before asking them to then pay more? These are the points in this raging controversy. There are also the concerted efforts by the government to alleviate the possible hardships that an increase in electricity tariff would necessarily engender. We'll be looking at all of this shortly, so stay with us. But a quick review of the polity, and let's start from The Hague, that is in the Netherlands, where the UN-backed War Crimes Court handed down a 50-year jail term to former Liberian President and warlord Charles Taylor yesterday. The special court set up to try cases arising from the Sierra Leone war found Charles Taylor guilty of crimes against humanity, inhuman treatment, and genocide during the 5 years that the Sierra Leone crisis lasted. Taylor was accused of personally supervising the dehumanization of people, among them Nigerians. We've hosted some of them on this program in the past, whose limbs were cut. Pregnant women had their wounds cut open to settle bets over the sex of their unborn children, while many were simply kept as sex slaves. Taylor, who is 64, insists he is not guilty. Well, he can keep telling that to the Marines, but it's a sad end for a man who lived a life of bloodletting and abuses. It's a sad reminder as well for leaders who would also want to turn against their people and become despots. It's a reminder to them that the world has indeed become one global village, and that no matter what you do, there certainly will be consequences. And as we have seen here in the case of Charles Taylor, the consequences may not always be palatable. At 64 and facing a 50-year jail term, the end has certainly come for Charles Taylor. All right, from The Hague, we are coming back home, and Edo State is where we are anchoring immediately. As you know by now, governorship election we hold in that state on July 14, and the preparations are hotting up. Let's start from INEC, which has now suspended the proposed voter registration updates in the state, and obviously the electoral body has nobody else but itself to blame for the sad turn of events as regards this exercise. It is obvious that INEC's actions have fallen short of the law, its intentions completely ignoble. Let me justify these assertions by a quick critical analysis of the facts. Now, before any major election, such as the governorship election which is scheduled in Edo State, the law requires an update of the voter register for that state to allow those who have missed out on the opportunity to register before, or those who have come of age between the time the voter registration took place or the last election took place and then the new election. At least for them to be able to register and be able to vote. That's what the law requires. It's called continuous voter registration and holds only in local government headquarters, not at all wards or all designated police centers. But what do we have, or what did we see in Edo State? INEC was reported to have deployed well over 400 DDC machines as if it was preparing for a fresh vote. There were also other allegations that the machines were deployed in a manner that raised more than passing interest. There were allegations as well that the machines were also recalibrated to very high resolution in some places, and then the voter register in these local governments were then fed into the highly calibrated DDC machines with a view to eliminating so many already registered voters. Now here you have a situation whereby if you have 2 or 5 Mohammeds, it doesn't matter whether it's Muhammad Aliyu or Muhammad Benga or Muhammad Ojo. Once you have multiple cases of Muhammad, the machine simply deletes all of them. Now that was what was going on before the alarm was raised. The allegations received some authenticity when an INEC ad hoc staff was also caught red-handed with a DDC machine at an odd place at an odd time. Not only that, some alleged PDP members were also caught with freshly issued voter registration cards. And on these, 3 people were already being tried at the magistrate court in Edo State. It was on account of all of this that INEC had to cancel the voter registration update. Even his explanation last weekend that the INEC has ad hoc staff arrested was on lawful duty had not completely cleared the air on the part of INEC. What about those facing trial in the court who were caught with so many voter registrations? How did they come about these cards in their possession? Only INEC can explain, and it has not explained all of this. But thankfully, INEC took the only face-saving option by putting a stop to this controversial exercise. But there are latest developments from Edo State, and they have to do with the PDP campaigns, which have suffered severe blows. You notice that the PDP has not started any campaign, even when you see the other parties campaigning. The problem is that the PDP is facing credibility problems. And all the big wigs, all the big names that could have been counted upon to either lead the campaigns, as you have seen Igodo and others doing for the ACN, all of them are so bitter with the PDP. They are still bitter over the conduct of the party's primaries and are not ready to be associated or do anything positive at all to help the umbrella party. Well, okay, let's put a stop to it. I will tell you all of this tomorrow, as I've spent so much time already today. So, let's take a quick break. Let's prepare for our discussions this morning. You may also have the opportunity of taking part in this program this morning. We are talking about electricity and the fact that from tomorrow you may be paying more. So it's an issue that concerns you one way or the other. Let's take a break to prepare for the discussions. Okay, if you're just joining us, our discussions are starting now. We have a little challenge here, which is that we don't have a complete panel. We were supposed to be having somebody, the chairman of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission here, but there has been a development between yesterday and this morning. As I'm speaking to you now, officials of the Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Council are locked in a meeting with members of the National Assembly, and it has to do again with this new tariff that is coming into effect tomorrow. So Dr. Amadi is not here, neither is his representative here, but we'll start the show. Like I said, we'll also give you the opportunity of taking part of the program. But let me introduce my guest who's there. Between the last time you saw him in the National Assembly and now, he has transformed. I don't know whether to call him Honorable Dino Melai or simply go by his new nomenclature.
Yes, Otumba.
Otumba Dino Melai. Otumba of Bunu Kingdom.
Yes.
In Kogi State.
Yes.
Well, he has also transformed. He has shared that toga of being one of the radical voices in the House of Representatives. He is now Executive Secretary, Anti-Corruption Network. It's always so easy to to form an NGO around issues. Now, what is all this about? Anti-corruption.
Yeah.
Is it just about corruption issues or every issue that touches your function?
Every form of injustice is a corruption. And basically, corruption is the bane of our development in this country, and the only way to get out of the doldrum is actually to fight it to a standstill, which we are resolute by the special grace of God to do.
And I saw you leading a group of Nigerians here in Abuja to, was it
PHCN, yes,
to go and demonstrate against this proposed new tariff.
Yeah, that was about 4 months ago. And after that protest, the federal government and indeed the Minister of Power came out to tell Nigerians that there is no plan to increase electricity tariff. Because the protest was on a Tuesday, and on the Wednesday after, the Senate summoned them to appear, and they told the Senate that there's no plan to hike electricity tariff. But eventually, you can now see that the government lied, because it's all over. Even the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria announced that the takeoff date for the new electricity tariff will be 1st of...
Yeah, it was not that there was no plan to hike electricity or to introduce a new regime of tariff.
Yes.
It was not that there was no plan. It was that the plan had been shifted every time because of the need to listen to Nigerians, because of the need to do one thing or the other, until the last time the president spoke about, will it be about 2 weeks ago?
About 2 weeks ago, yes.
Yes,
2 weeks ago.
The 1st of June
would be
new date was sacrosanct.
Yeah.
And it's less than 24 hours
yes.
to that day.
Yeah. Basically, I will start by saying that Nigerians live in perilous times, and we live in times of vicissitude and vacillation. We live in times of approval and obloquy, in times of pain, in times of difficulties, and no one would think that a responsible, sensitive government haven't gone through the pains of the subsidy in the petroleum sector, that so soon there will be this negative concomitant effect on Nigerians, increasing the tariff on electricity. I mean, this is outrageously calamitous. It's painful. It's uncalled for, and this kind of ill treatment can only remind you in human history of Pontius Pilate when he sentenced our Lord Jesus Christ to flogging and death. Because Nigerians do not deserve this type of pain and recklessness. I've done a serious research on this issue of electricity, especially the tariff, and the reasons why government is asking for increase in tariff. I delivered a paper just a few days ago in Lagos, when the minister called a town hall meeting in the city, though the stakeholders were not, who were supposed to be the real consumers of electricity, were not in that, they were not in attendance. But I was there, and I delivered a lecture and a paper, and I categorically told Nigerians that the tariff increase is not a thing for today. In a country where the government has converted our debt the nation has been converted from being a debt-free nation with a surplus of over $50 billion in reserve to now a begging nation with with about $45 billion credit to our neck. Is a painful situation. And the reason why government is asking for increase is to woo, the major reason is that to woo investors. That if you increase tariff, then investors will buy into the privatization and operations of the power sector. But basically, I want to tell you that the institutional and infrastructural constraints in the power sector today is of greater impediment than the tariff to an investor.
Okay.
There are a lot of institutional.
Let's talk about the institutional and the
infrastructural impediments.
Okay. What are those? But before you go on,
constraints.
I just want to make a quick correction,
yes.
Which is that the government says what is going to happen is not necessarily increase in tariff.
It's another lie.
But appropriate prices.
It's another lie.
Energy.
It's another lie.
Appropriate prices.
It's another lie. As far back as 1986, we have been told by government that there will be steady electricity in Nigeria. As far back as 1986. May the soul of the former Minister of Justice rest in peace. Yeah. In 1999 December, he told Nigerians, that late Chief Bola Ige, that in 6 months as Minister of Power, he said Nigeria will have stable electricity. These lies have been repeated, and repeated.
We have the other people projects.
I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. And the reason why we will not trust this government, and why we cannot trust this government, and why we are going to vehemently resist this hike, is because $13.2 billion have been invested in the power sector via NIPP projects and other power projects. Yes. $13.2 billion.
Not by this government.
I'm coming.
This government, through the Minister of Power, said just last week,
yes,
admitted publicly to Nigerians that all the previous policies in the power sector have been badly done. I'm coming to that.
I'm coming to that. Government,
yes, we have spent that much, but it was money wrongly spent because it was
Mr. Bega,
policy was
government is a continuum. The president reiterated a few days ago, or 2 days ago, his commitment to fighting corruption. $13.2 billion is government money. Whether spent by this government or not is government money, and government is a continuum. What we are saying is that we expected that this government will call into questioning these characters, these financial scavengers and economic cankerworms who stole this $13.2 billion. They are roaming the streets. Some of them are governors today. Some of them are living as free men. Are you now saying that the government cannot put a check on those who stole this money? Are you now asking the masses of this country to now subsidize the international jet-setting lifestyle of this of government appointees and characters?
Which one should have been priority for you if you were in government?
Yes.
To begin to look back at those who stole what, or put a stop to that,
my brother,
and begin on the first template that would then guarantee
$13.2 billion
yes,
is enough to ameliorate and palliate the problem of the power sector.
And
I'm saying that if you can get this money,
yes,
if you can get this money back from these people,
yes,
and plunk it back to the power sector,
yes.
Now the government is not a Father Christmas.
Yes.
Some people are stealing this money.
The period you spend looking for who stole what, so that you know what to get from who.
Yes, and
when.
Agreed.
Wasn't that what the Yaradua government did when they first came in?
Yeah.
Instead of looking at what has happened speedily, that these things had not been properly put on proper templates,
yes,
put a stop to it and resume afresh. The government wasted 2 solid years without doing anything other than to look back at what had happened for 8 years.
Let me tell you. Let me tell you this in clear terms. Let me tell you this in clear terms. The government programs and policy implementation in the power sector, or the implementation of the roadmap, has nothing to do with the fight against corruption. It is not the minister or the president that is going to fight this corruption. Well, we expect the president to refer this matter to the necessary appropriate anti-graft agencies so that these characters can be invited and sue and taken to court for. But today they are free men and government is not doing anything about it. And the two can actually go pari passu. But I'm even faulting the sincerity of purpose of fight and commitment of government. Like I said earlier, that the infrastructural constraints is far more an impediment to investors than the issue of tariff. Tariff is just one out of several metrics that an investor will want to see. For example, if you allow me, give me 2 minutes to go through the details why we are saying that government is not sincere and this cannot work. It's another mirage, it's another drama, it's another pain they are trying to inflict on the masses of this country. If you look at, like for example now, government will, for every $1 invested in generation, government needs $2 investment in transmission and upgrade. That has not been done. If you look at the gas, today, there's gas deficiency.
You need to explain what you mean by when you make a point like that. You know
what I'm explaining. What I mean is,
yeah,
for every $1
yeah,
that government will invest in generation of electricity,
yes,
government will need twice that amount
to get into the consumer.
To get transmission,
yeah, to get into the consumer
and upgrade to the consumer.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying in essence is that investment in transmission and upgrade is greater than investment in generation of power. Then, secondly, for all the plants to be operational, you will need gas to evacuate generated power. And NNPC released officially that from now till 2016, government will have a shortfall. That's ceteris paribus, all things being equal, all infrastructural work put in place. Government will have a deficiency of 40% in the supply of gas to the nation. And this, did they explain why? Is it that the gas has dried up? It's infrastructural problem. In the West? It's infrastructural problem. Infrastructural problem.
How? The pipes have not been laid or what?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Most of the contracts awarded for gas pipelines have not been done. You see the same issue of corruption. And if government have said that they will only be able to produce 60% of the needs for gas in this country from now till 2016, and this 60% that we will produce, Mr. Benga, include cooking gas, include industrial gas, and every other form of gas we are using in this country, then it is still part out of this 60 that you expect that the plants will benefit from. So if already there's a deficiency of gas supply, then why now talking about servicing plants? Government issued out 48 licenses.
But there are also investments in hydro.
No, I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. And I will tell you that it's not workable. I'm coming to that if you give me the time. Basically, if you are now saying that there's no gas available, in which the Minister of Power confessed also that there's shortage of the supply of gas. And if already you don't have gas, and there's a deficiency in the supply of gas, and you are now saying that you have issued out 48 licenses to people to build their plants, I want to ask, out of the 48 licenses issued out, how many plants are functioning today? I can tell you none. How many of them are producing even 1 megawatt of electricity? No.
Yeah,
and those licenses issued,
they are still going on.
Those licenses, how long have they been issued? Those licenses,
this government is just 1 year.
Those licenses will still be moribund.
This government is just a year old.
I'm coming. You don't need 20 years for licenses were issued even before. Some licenses were issued even before this government came in. And these licenses will end up like the licenses issued out for the building of refineries. Today, you have issued out 48. None of those 48 have taken up operation or produce any or generate any form of electricity. And now, you are now saying that to woo more investors, when those who have been given licenses already have not performed, you are now saying to woo more investors, the best thing you can do is to increase tariffs.
No, then to appropriately price the product.
I'm going to tell you that it's not appropriate. I'm coming to that, and we're going to go look at the figures. Because basically, you are now saying in excess that the grand corruption in this sector is far more detrimental to investors' confidence than the issue of low pricing. Then if you look at the issue of the subsidy that the electricity for we're talking about, the subsidized electricity for the poor must first be funded before it becomes a reality, and there's no money for that on ground. I can bet you there's no money for that on ground. Then if you now look at the components why governments want to increase, there are 3 issues. 1, the cost of production was considered. 2, return on investment and return of investment. And since there is no new plants that has taken up of generating power in this country today, we resort back to the old plants. Kainji is over 40 years old. Egui is over 30 years old. And already there's return on investment on these plants. The capital investment on these plants is zero because of the number of years they have lived and all that. And today, they are now saying it's one of the indices. I don't know if you understand my postulation. It's one of the indices for increasing the tariff on plants that have become moribund and obsolete, that there's no return of capital on. And there's no return.
It's unfortunate that Dr. Amadi...
I'll be back anytime. I'll be back anytime. I'll be back anytime.
I know that there are so many things going on. They talk about captive power and all of that.
I'll come to that. I can explain that. Yeah. One of the cardinal reasons why they're increasing this power is, I told you that it's free. 2 out of these 3 already have been paid for. That is return on and off investment. Already has been paid for. Because this plants already have, I mean, there's return on investment on them already.
Yeah, but we are talking of those, and the reason, even the existing plants, where you, even the ones we are talking about are not enough. We are talking of a nation whose electricity need is between 80,000 and 100,000 megawatts. And we are talking of 3,000 megawatts. And even if all of these existing plants function at optimum capacity, shortage, there will still be. But we're not saying that. So continuously we need to attract investment. But we're not saying that. We're not saying that to attract investment into that sector, there are infrastructural ameliorations that must be made. Okay. And I'm not saying in essence that even if, which is not possible, even if all these plants today generate 10,000 megawatts, how do you evacuate the power? Which is why there's also investment in transmission. And let me tell you the investment in transmission. Yes. Like Roxin. Yes. Roxin was given the contract for the transmission of power in the south-south. Those were in the NRPP. I'm coming. It's still ongoing. Roxin is still there. It's government money. As I speak to you, they are still talking to Roxin. And Roxin collected money that, the contract sum paid to Roxin is a far cry from performance. If you go to that place now, there's nothing happening. And this is a company that got the biggest chunk of the transmission contracts, especially concentrated in the south-south. The contract has failed. Performance has failed. I don't understand. There's no prosecution. And today, even if you cancel that contract, government do not have money to re-award that contract. And yet, you are increasing tariffs when the transmission contract has failed, as far as I'm concerned. And it cannot be completed on schedule. I personally visited the site, and I can tell you nothing is happening there. So, if that is the case, why are you now deceiving Nigerians? Why are you now telling Nigerians that Nigerians should pay for a service they're not going to get? How are you sure? We want to see these plants generated. And even today, if you generate power, if today let's even agree that all these plants come up and they're operating and we can generate 10,000 megawatts, how do you evacuate or transmit such powers? One, there's no gas to transmit it. Two, those who have given the contract because of corruption have not been able to implement the contracts. You are not even fighting them. There's no referral to any anti-graft agency that these people should be responsible. Then, secondly, this is the only time in the history of mankind I can think of in a logical reasoning where government will embark on a policy that have no alternative. There's no alternative policy to this issue of power. In Kogi and Gombe, underground, you have 4,000 megawatts. 4,000 megawatts of electricity can be generated through coal. 4,000 megawatts just between Kogi State and Gombe, underground. Government is not exploring this. Lagos State government consumes 60% of electricity in this country. Lagos State. And Lagos State is the only state that have 2 distribution companies. So why can't federal government allow Lagos State to generate our own electricity? That is 60% of national, 60% burden of national grid. You can now redistribute. But I want to tell you, because of the corruption that is going on in the power sector, because of the beneficiaries of this corruption, and unfortunately, the masses are now called upon to service
the international jet-setting lifestyle of this of this corrupt leadership and government appointees. So if we see a government that will come out and fight corruption sincerely in the oil and the power sector, that is more of a booster to an investor than increasing tariffs. And moreover, my brother, in my own area, in my place in Aito-Ogbede in Kogi State, I provided the transformer that is servicing my area. I provided electric poles. I provided the cables.
Constituency?
No, personally. And it's like that everywhere, even in some communities.
Was it a constituency project?
No. I'm saying that I provided it for my people because my
where
house,
were the house? Because
my house is there. I even provided transformers for some communities from my own post. And what's constituency project? You understand? So what I'm saying next is that it is the same in your village. And across this country, you see communities coming together, raising money to buy transformers, raising money to buy electric poles. Some individuals who are blessed do that for different communities. Today, government is now privatizing the infrastructures, understand, of power in this country. Can you privatize what you don't own? I have receipts. I have receipts for purchasing those infrastructures. Today, government is privatizing all these infrastructures. Because I'm going to court tomorrow on that. Because you cannot privatize what you don't have. Anyway, so the essence of this is that there's no transparency, there's no sincerity of purpose, of heart and commitment. Government have lied and continuously lying to Nigerians. In fact, the speech of Mr. President 2 days ago is faulted. When he said we have over 4,000 megawatts, it's not true. So it's not true.
So how many megawatts do we have?
We are operating about between 3,000 and 3,100.
Yeah, even if
that is the fact we have.
Even if it is 4,000. The argument here is that a country that needs about 80,000 at the minimum, and is talking about 3,000, 4,000. That country for me is not serious.
Yeah,
the leaders that are talking about that target, or even raising it to 10,000, are also not serious. But then you cannot hold a government that is just 1 year old.
No, you can.
You can't hold that government accountable.
You can, because I'm a Yoruba man. I'm a Yoruba man. Out of 4 years, we can hold them accountable for 1 year. I'm a Yoruba man, and there's a popular Yoruba adage that says that if it takes you 7 years to prepare for madness, for how many years will you run mad?
It could be for life.
And the truth of the matter is this, Mr. Benga, even this subsidy that government is saying they are providing, I can bet you, as I speak to you today, there are all indicators that government does not have money.
Okay, but there are some other, let's listen to this. There are some other measures that the government is taking to ameliorate whatever the consequences of the hike from tomorrow will like be.
How?
Okay, let's listen to one. The president spoke about one yesterday.
Okay, we'll listen.
Let's listen to it, and then we talk also about the attitude of Nigeria. Even our own attitude to power consumption is at complete variance with what the attitude of other citizens
let's see.
in other countries are.
I hope you are not talking about the Bob advert that the president did yesterday.
Well, listen first. Don't preempt me. Don't preempt the president. Let's listen to the president.
They are replacing the boards we have been using that even emit so much heat to this that you have to say, and it has nothing to do with our commitment to stabilize power in this country. We'll continue to work hard to stabilize power. As we work hard, this is a very big country. It will take us almost a year to bring awareness across the country. So we don't need to wait until we stabilize power before we talk about changing our boards.
What we want is for those companies to begin to manufacture them here, and for the bulb manufacturers in Nigeria to now turn to LED bulbs.
All right. I don't know whether the president was saying.
Okay.
I don't. Dino, don't try.
Anyway, let me react to that. I suspected, like a prophet.
Lead me to the fact that our attitude to power consumption is awful. You are leaving your house in a 2-bedroom apartment. You leave all the lights on. You leave your AC
on. But the truth of the matter is,
you leave your fridge on. You leave your. Perhaps the only thing you don't leave on is the iron, because you know of the consequences.
Agreed. In reaction to the Bob advert, which Mr. President did yesterday, In the first instance, my brother, I've been using energy-saving bulb for the past 4 years.
Yes.
I'm coming.
You are going to be metered.
I'm coming.
And it's going to be based on consumption.
And I've been using energy-saving bulb for the 4 years. It's not the responsibility of the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, to become and to be given bulb adverts as if you're advertising Omo on TV. I mean, you have the National Orientation Agency. You have the Federal Ministry of Information. You have so many organizations that you can use to create awareness for conservation of energy. The problem of this country is not a matter of a bulb, my brother. The PHCN and NERC, they are saying that the poor will pay less. My question to them is painful that none of them is here, but on invitation, I want to meet any of them and ask some questions. My question is this: what is the eligibility criteria for the poor? We want to know what is the eligibility criteria for the poor. Then two.
So the delimitation of I mean,
you know why that won't work? You know why that won't work?
Why?
A organizer,
yes,
a saloonist, yes, a barber
who operates.
I'm coming. A barber. Listen, a barber, yes, who operates in an urban environment, yes, is a poor man, and you are going to charge him commercial rates. You are going to charge him commercial rates. So it doesn't make any sense at all, Menga. There's no sincerity of purpose in these issues. And the truth of the matter is that now, apart from the economic injustice that is going to create, yeah, I can tell you very seriously, another question, please, maybe if they are hearing me or when we are going to meet again, they should take note. I'm asking how many IPPs have been commissioned? How many independent power plants have been commissioned? What is the return on and off investment? What is the stage of Roxin engineering transmission contracts? Then how much have been given to Roxin? For analysis, I made a small analysis here. A basic layman's calculation reveals the following. Assuming 4,000 megawatts are being distributed through grid to consumers, assuming. This means that 96 million kilowatt hours per day. Or assuming that we even cut it down to 80%. If we cannot get optimum 100%, the capacity will be 76,800,000 kilowatts per day. Assuming 80% of 76,800,000 are charged at an average tariff of 25 naira per kilowatt per hour, as they are trying to do right now. That's taking means of all categories. Will be generating 1.536 billion. Then 1.5 billion naira per day. In a year, we'll be generating 560 billion, 640 million naira per annum. Then with operating costs, that is less than 40%, because already, like I said, there is no return. There's return on investment is at cost zero. It's at cost zero. So how can the masses benefit from this? How can the masses benefit from this? Then does National Electricity Regulatory Commission even know what the meter coverage in Nigeria is? Let's even take analysis from Kano, Kano, Port Harcourt, Lagos, and Abuja. For instance, call NEG. If they are here today, I will ask them, can they tell us what the meter coverage in Nigeria is? And the masses are now subsidizing, like I say again,
some of the issues you raise are very germane, which is on the issue of the metering. Like you said, nobody is there to give us an update on what the metering, yes, coverage has been. But it's an issue that has been raised consistently, which is that if you are imposing a tariff, yes, and one key thing that will make it a success is the fact that everybody, which is that if you like, if your meter runs out, don't go and buy a recharge card. If you like, stay in darkness. But if you want light, you have to go and buy a recharge card. And then the use for which you put it, yes, which is that if you like, when you buy a recharge card, put all your lights on and run your recharge card in 1 day.
It's your business.
Like you recharge your phone. If you like, buy a 500 naira recharge card, use all the time to call just one person.
It's true.
It's your business. But if everybody is not bitter, is it possible to achieve all?
So how do you now start increasing tariffs
when everybody is
not metered? Why?
That's where the question of putting the cart before the horse comes in.
Correctly. Even beyond putting the cart before the horse, it's like treating a patient for chemotherapy when you have not diagnosed cancer. And the major question here is this: increasing the tariff before improving service delivery makes Nigerian business uncompetitive.
Okay.
It makes Nigerian business uncompetitive. And why does... the truth of the matter is very, very simple. It's like government is increasing before investors in the distribution. That's another key aspect of it. Government is increasing tariffs before investors in the distribution companies have put forward their loss mitigation strategies. The distribution companies that will eventually come up, they have not given us, they've not put forward their mitigation strategies. Already, you are giving us tariffs. So what if they now today, tomorrow, bring out a yardstick indices parameter to say this is what our mitigation, loss mitigation strategies is? Okay. Then will government now again start reversing? And again, we are not going to keep quiet. We are going to put pressure on this government. We are going to resist vehemently this tariff. And if we do, like we did during subsidy, and government again now reduce from 25 naira per kilowatt per hour to maybe 18 naira per kilowatt per hour, which government will always do if there's pressure on them, is that not more of an impediment to an investor than increasing it outrightly?
Okay. I don't have answers to some of your posters, but we also got some clips of the minister speaking very, very recently on these issues. I think he talked about the problems. He talked about even this issue of tariff and all of that. That's the Minister of Power, Professor Beth Naji. We're going to bring that now. But just to also let you know that since we already said that we allow you, it's a very topical issue affecting everybody. 094625203 is the number to the studio. If you succeed in getting the phone to work, we will be able to take your contributions. But while we wait to do that, let's hear the minister whether he has answers to some of the posers that Toba Dino Melai has raised there.
To go into effect, and let me just say something about tariff. Tariff is a review. It's not tariff increase for the people that we normally want to protect. Who are these people? The urban poor and rural dwellers. The urban poor and rural dwellers not only will not have a tariff increase, they actually will have tariff reduction. Right now, the average tariff for this class, what we call the R1 consumers, is about 7 naira per kilowatt hour. The tariff will go down to 4 naira per kilowatt hour and will be flat throughout the Federation of Nigeria. That is only happening because Mr. President wants to ensure that the urban poor and rural dwellers don't see effect of any review, so that the people who are rich and can pay the tariff should be able to pay. And so he's providing subsidy this year in the budget to ensure that we reduce this tariff to this level. Even the middle class have significant, half of their actual tariff, what we call the cost-effective tariff, will be paid for through the subsidy. So the increase for the middle class is very small, about 11%. The plan in Vision 2020 is to be able to support that plan with 40,000 megawatts by 2020. And then we look at where we are and we say, how on earth can you deliver that? If you go back to where Nigeria wants to be by 2030, this is where we would have caught up with where Brazil, which is one of the countries that we compare ourselves to. That country, as at now, has this amount of power. And that's where we would like to be, 135 megawatts of power by 2030. Public power takes time. If anybody watched what happened when Mr. President went to Germany and went to Siemens plant, and the question was, how long does it take to manufacture a turbine? Absolute minimum time is 12 months. We haven't been in this government for 12 months. And that's just the turbine. We've not talked about design phase. We've not talked about then construction and commissioning. It takes time. But government had been working on this. So what I want to tell you is, when do you begin to reap the fruits of all the investments that you have been making? Just didn't have appropriate plans before. But What we are doing now is to do the correct thing. We must do the correct thing the way it's done all over the world.
All right, there you have it. The Minister of Power, Professor Bat Naji. Government is trying to do the correct thing, which has not been done over the years. He said so many things, but let me take this call.
Okay,
and then you have to it. Timothy is calling from Enugu. Would this be Timothy Ugboagu, our friend on the radio? Good morning. I hear him. I don't know whether it's... Okay.
You see, I'm sorry again. I just listened to the minister. His statements are very fallacious, because what the minister is saying is still about saying there's a disparity between the rich and the poor. And my question is, what is the eligibility criteria? At least if you say you want to help the poor, you must give us an eligibility criteria on how you want to help the poor. Then the man...
Who is the urban poor?
Who is the urban poor? That's part of the eligibility criteria we're asking for. Who is the urban poor? Who is the rural poor? What is the disparity?
Well, I know the rural poor.
What is the disparity?
The rural poor will be the poor man in the rural area.
Yes.
But who is the urban poor?
But let me tell you, what the rural and urban poor, poverty is poverty, whether in the rural area or in the urban center. The Talakawas in Kano and the Mekunus in Ibadan and the poor Panwatap and Umuleri is asking for is not tariff increase or reduction. What they want to see is light. They want to see light. So it's not the issue of technicality, it's not the issue of whether reducing meter or, I don't know the indices, I don't know the indicators, but the truth of the matter is, now the minister was also talking about the reaction of federal government by putting in subsidy. The same government that is saying, we want to remove subsidy. Subsidy is dangerous, subsidy is killing, subsidy is satanic. The same government is, in the same year they are trying to remove subsidy, is introducing subsidy through power generation
for the poor.
What for the poor? The one they said they are removing from petroleum, it's also for the poor. They say if you remove it, the poor will benefit more. So and not only that, please, if you are now saying that about 50 billion have been budgeted for subsidy in the power sector, I told you earlier, from all indicators, that money is not available.
It's not available, it's not in the budget.
No, whether it's in the budget or not, I am telling you that it is not, because the country, whether we like it or not, is insolvent.
All right, let me just stop you. Jerome is joining us from Port Harcourt. Jerome, good morning.
Good morning, Benga. Can you hear me?
Put the TV on.
Can you hear me?
We can't now.
Hello?
We can't hear you.
Okay. I want to say that the speaker is not your guest there is not in tune with what is happening, because if he has visited the power plants that the government is claiming to have built or they are building, he will not be saying all these things that he's saying, especially in Port Harcourt and all the power plants that the government or the governor is building here. At least I have visited them, and as an engineer, I know they are working. Right now, the government says, give us this time to put the electricity in place. And this is what they intend to achieve by this time, and this is what they intend to achieve the next 2 years and all that. He is there making claims. Maybe I just feel that maybe it's because he's no longer in government. That is why he's saying all this. I want to ask him, if those poles and all that he said he bought for his people, how long did it take him for those poles or these transformers he bought to start working in their place? Those places he said he bought poles or he bought a transformer. How long did it take for those things to be working? I want him to answer.
All right, Jerome.
Thank you very much.
But let me also clarify what you said. You see, the truth of the matter is that what we are seeing in Port Harcourt is the effort of the River State government. It is the government of Rotimi Amechi that is building on what Sir Peter Odili started when he noticed that power is crucial in whatever you do for the people. And he's building on it. All those power plants that you are seeing, either in Eleme, in Trans-Amadi, are all owned by the River State government. And it's such a painful thing that whereas the state government, like state like Rivers, like Akwa Ibom, like Delta, I think Bayelsa as well, have all invested in these power plants. The people of those states cannot feel the impact because whatever they are generating, they are pumping into the national grid, and very little or nothing comes back to the states, to those states, to the citizens of those states, which is why you don't have 24-hour electricity like Governor Michi has promised, like other governors have promised. Now, the new thing is that the federal government is trying to clear all the obstacles such that these states too can also invest in transmission and distribution, such that if River State, for example, generates like 400 megawatts, which is far and above what the entire state needs, they'll be able to give all of you in Port Harcourt 24-hour, if not at least 18-hour constant power supply. But we are not able to have all of that because of some of the obstacles.
In addition to that intellectual disposition by Benga, I want to inform and educate the feeble mind of Jero.
No, please don't trace.
No, I educate because he doesn't.
Yeah, but without necessarily calling him names.
No, there's no name calling. I want to educate you, just like Benga explained. Governor Fashola is generating power right now in Lagos. Isa Yuguda is generating power in Bauchi. It has nothing to do with the efforts of the federal government, and that is the reason why the IOCs now come in. The IOC is the international oil companies. Now, it is part of the indicator. They are trying to integrate them into national grid. But my question, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Now you are trying to integrate those people into the national
so that they can release the excess.
So that they can release the excess they have. But I also want to say that the cost of doing that has been built into this issue. Has been built into the new MITO 2, which is the 25 naira kilowatts per hour. It has been built into it. But the question to ask the Ministry of Power and the National Electricity Regulatory Commission is that since you are building the IOCs now into this and building even some state government plans into this, especially for the IOC, what they are doing in their environment and in their milieu is part of the agreements they had with NNPC ab initio. It's part of the agreement they had with NNPC ab initio. So now my question is, where do you retire those costs? Is it in the Ministry of Power or in the Ministry of Petroleum? So you don't equate that. And I want to ask you, 48 licenses have been issued. Plants have been asked to be built. I want to ask, that's why I asked the question. They should tell me one that has been commissioned. They should tell me one that has been commissioned. None has been commissioned. And let me tell you, in the north today, you have Kainji, you have Shiroro, you have Jeba. These three put together, there's a serious shortfall in the north. These three put together is right now providing 1/3 of our electricity consumption, while Egni alone is giving us 1/3. Government is not saying this is how we want to correct this disparity. So the question is, tariff is merely one component in the investor decision-making matrix,
or the power sector reform.
Or the power sector reform is just one component of an investor of the investor decision-making matrix. So the government must actually withdraw from its cocoon and repent, and let Nigerians be told the truth. Governments must stop lying to Nigerians, because this government particularly is not a government of if. It's a government of if. You cannot hear anything without if. If. How can you ask Nigerians to pay for a service that is sick, a service that is epileptic, a service that is not available? It's not possible. Sorry, don't mind my language. It is usually ejaculation before conception, not conception before ejaculation. All right. So government must become very serious-minded. Government must fight corruption in the power sector. Government must arrest and prosecute all those who have stolen our $13.2 billion. And government must now reinvest this money sincerely back into power. But you cannot ask Nigerians to come and pay 25 naira kilowatts per hour when you have not provided any service. And this one, how can I trust Naji?
Right.
How can I trust Jonathan when government have lied and relied and relied and lied and relied?
All right. Let's just.
And we are going to fight it within the ambit of the law.
All right.
We are going to stop everything from working.
All right, we'll stop.
Okay,
but you can't stop us from ending this program here now.
No, we can't.
Okay, so let's. I'm a rural poor. I'm sorry, urban poor. So government has taken care of my interest. Thank you so very much, And like I said, so many things are happening today. Officials of the National Electricity Regulatory Commission are locked in a meeting with members of the National Assembly. We may just have issues arising from that, and for the fact that tomorrow is the D-Day when all of this will crystallize. We don't know whether we may have to come back to this issue tomorrow when we come back. Okay, whatever happens, you will see us here tomorrow. My name is Benga Aruleba. Do have the best of the day. Otumba Nomelaye, thank you very much for making
We have more in part 1 of Turning Point's exclusive report, Behind the Mask.
So many girls commit suicide in the street because of their loneliness, their emptiness.
But come rain or shine, you'll find prostitutes on sidewalks.
Hello and welcome to Turning Point.
The Bishop Latino Show, BOS International.
I think the congregation tonight should be a period for celebration of the incoming, the end of the legal year, the beginning of the legal year, but a period also for sober reflection.
We have signed into law several legislations whose implementation will help us provide the service delivery that you expect of us and raise the standard of life.
The Bishop Latino Show, BOS International.
I'll give you all the finest things in life. You are the angel of my life, the love of my life. I love my baby, that's my baby. I will treat my baby right.
Words all over the world have made the Bishop Latino Show, BOS International, the first choice on their TV dials every week. The Bishop Latino Show, BOS.
Independent television.
Independent television. AIT, sharing the African experience.
serious.
I wanted to avoid it, but I thought of running away.
You thought of doing what are you doing here? David! You want your game man to stop me from entering your house?
I want to let you know that I will win the competition.
When the thunder strikes, the earth shakes. When the beatings wear signs, there comes confusion, devastation, deception, disbelief, love, and dismay. Trust in man is deadly. Your close friend, your worst enemy. The Burning Spear. Burning Spear, a story of multi-identity, suspense-filled, educative, and entertaining. The Burning Spear.
Come on, let's go.
From sense of nowhere. It's just a bunch of prejudices about the different communities, but nothing substantial about the cause of the conflict.
It is becoming expensive to have you there.
If it was you that lost your brother, would you do it?
Family ties, a thorn in the flesh.
To be seeing my daughter every day is not small money.
The doctor, when he's concerned,
my pocket is never afraid. Oh, well, I will do everything. I'm making on the name of as an action.
Well, your mom. It's Carly. Yeah, I don't like anything that has to do with Charles. It's like,
Come, you be like say hungry, never why are you rich, Abby? You know nothing about football, so there's no point asking. Organize your cup and not your body. This one not your couple. Oh, well, I want, see, baby, it's not my money.
Three nurses and a doctor. Find out what matters in Clinic Matters.
And I wonder what someone like you is doing in such a noble profession where so much courtesy is required. Can you attend to this woman?
Because the nurse who had the pilot just gone into prepare to take her temperature.
He's not planning to tell his wife until the other lady delivers. You are heartless.
Is this our business if your husband impregnates another woman?
The only problem I have is with people making silly and great mistakes, especially in marriage. You are a nurse and not a marriage counselor.
The jealous man that doesn't like sharing some of my personal effects with anybody.
Women are not regarded as personal effects.
Blessing time is over.
A very warm welcome to every one of you out there. It's lovely to have you this Thursday, the last day in the month of May. It is the 31st day of May 2012, the second month in the second quarter. That's the end of the second month of the second quarter. This is the Money Show, your number one financial newsroom. This is where you have clarity on business, finance, and markets information across not just Nigeria, Africa, and indeed the world. I am Nancy, and thank you for joining us this morning. Okay, let's go straight ahead. You will notice I'm not standing today. We'll be bringing you the market numbers in a short while. Of course, you'll be seeing the numbers within the program. But we thought it's wise that we should X-ray Jonathan's 12 months after. I wanted to say 100 days in office, but 100 days is over. Okay, we'll be looking at President Jonathan's 1 year in office. We'll be x-raying it. Yesterday on the program, I took you through the Democracy Day speech, about 71 points, but I quickly took you through some of the points that you needed to know, or we reiterated them. For those of you that didn't watch the speech on Democracy Day, structural reforms being done across sectors of the economy. But today we'll be looking at that speech and we'll be explaining what President Jonathan has done in the last 1 year. Don't forget that, of course, that Democracy Day, we saw the renaming of University of Lagos to Moshood Abiola University of Lagos, drowning what has been done in the last 1 year, drowning the speech of President Jonathan. That's how I feel, though. But I have my guest joining me right now. Let me start from the professor in our midst. Of course, professor needs to be respected. So I will start with him. He's a regular on this show, though, but he's not been here for quite some time. He is Professor Oka Ezenwe of the Economics Department, University of Abuja. Good morning, Prof. Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, Nancy, for the invitation.
It's good to have you on the show. It's been quite a while. I think the last time you were here was during the subsidy issue. Yes, so that's about 3 or 4 months ago, more than that. All right, welcome again to the show.
Thank you.
Close to him is Chika Nwozuzu, our policy analyst on the program. Mr. Nwozuzu, it's also nice to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So welcome, gentlemen. I think we'll just go straight to the point because we have quite a lot to discuss, and that's why we're starting the discussion right about now. But for those of you that are watching us from your living rooms, your bedrooms, your offices, and you want to join the discussion, please, you can send your comments right now at facebook.com/ABC Money Show Live. Drop what you think about what the president has done in the last 12 months, and you can tweet me at Nancy Lo. Drop your comments there. All right, let's get started, and I will start with our Prof. You know, preceding the elections or during the campaign trail, I would say that the euphoria that welcomed President Jonathan appears to have disappeared. So to speak. When he was on the campaign trail, a lot of people could relate to him. He had this quiet mien. He also had this humble background. Of course, we won't forget in a hurry the I had no shoes slogan, or I had no shoes speech that he knows our pains. And analysts have said right now that his 1 year in office is predicated on probably unfulfilled promises, is predicated on economic weakness, so to speak, though the presidency is saying that there's transformation going on. But I just want to quickly take you through to his Facebook page. You know, when President Jonathan, aspiring to be the full-fledged president, he wrote on his Facebook page, and I'll need to read it out for you both. I do not want to win your affections by giving you promises of things I will do in future, which others before me have given, and which have largely been unfulfilled. Rather, I would want you to judge me by my records. The only promise I make to you, my friends, fellow citizens in Nigeria, is to promise less and deliver more if I am elected. President Jonathan has been elected 1 year on. Nigerians have entrusted their lives into his hands. 1 year on, do you think that President Jonathan has been able to deliver on his promises? Prof.
Thank you, Nancy. First of all, it's unfair to make a summary statement on this. You have to contextualize his campaign promises. As a matter of fact, he made 91 promises, 91 promises, covering the areas of infrastructure, employment, oil and gas, health, education, name it. And also in these promises, I will plead with you to allow me to mention 2 or 3. I'm not going to mention the 91 cases so that we can be fair in our judgment. Anyway, let me start by saying that you cannot, after 1 year, judge him on what he's supposed to have done in a period of 4 years. But if you have to go by the campaign promises in some of them, he made specific categorical statements. For example, on women empowerment, he said he will give 35% of employment in the ministerial and ambassadorial appointments. Now, if you want to go back on that now, he has given 30 women ministerial appointments, and he has appointed a number of ambassadors. So on this, you give me a pass mark. On this one, I'm prepared to give him 75%. Pass mark.
As a teacher.
As a teacher. Then on, he said, on the issue of employment, he said categorically that within the next 2 years, that we create 1.5 million jobs. Within the next 2 years. Those 2 years started from when he was elected president. That is 1 year ago. I don't think he has created 1.5 million jobs. Because, well, within 2 years, I don't think he has created 750,000 new jobs. So on that one, you can at best give him something like 45%, because he has not achieved that one.
45%, isn't it generous that he is not able to half of it?
He said on education, he said he will establish by 2012 at least one state university, one federal university in all the 6 states. He has created 9, which is a very good record. But by the way, even this promise, of course, I see it. Some of the promises are the kind of promises some young men make to some young ladies. Promises that are within the next few seconds and minutes, they disappear into thin air. All right? I do not see how within this his period he would have created, because already altogether the federal government has 24. That means if you remove 9 from the 24, you're ending up with 15, which was there before. So even if you create 9 new universities, are you is the federal government in a position to fund them? Even the one they've created. They just this. If you go there and see what is happening, they can become meaningful and effective centers of learning in the next couple of years. So these are the kind of electoral campaign promises people make just to win votes. Now, if you go to area of economy, he said he will transform the economy within 4 years. There is no way, anyway, going by what he has done so far, I don't think he can transform the economy before the end of his term. Because it means when we talk of economic transformation, we need radical restructuring of the economy, not growth. Because a lot of people confuse growth with development. The Nigerian economy as of now is growing, but it's not developing. Economic development means radical restructuring of the sectors. Growth will change. Diversification of the economy, so that all the sectors will be making their effective contribution to the overall growth and development of the economy. What we have been seeing, increase in GDP arising out of activities in the oil sector, and that is why we have the paradox of an economy that is growing, but the welfare of the people is declining. In 2004, the welfare index was 54%. By last year, it is now 60%. Absolute poverty has increased between that 2004 and now. At the same time, the economy is growing. This is what we call non-inclusive growth, which doesn't do anybody any good. The welfare of any government anywhere is the welfare of the government. That is the yardstick you use to measure the welfare, I mean the performance of any government, the welfare of the government. But when you are growing or doing whatever you are doing, your people are being pauperized. People cannot get treatment when they need to get treatment. Some people were still talking of 9 million out of school. You cannot say that you are growing.
Okay, Prof, just hold your fire there for a second. Let me come to Mr. Mozuzo. Prof said that it may not be fair on us to judge Mr. President 1 year into his term, a term of 4 years. But how justifiable is it for us as Nigerians to demand performance from Mr. President, vis-a-vis his campaign promises, vis-a-vis the kind of vibe or hype that Mr. President came in with? And should Nigerians be comfortable with the status quo right now? And shouldn't Nigerians be hungry for performance? Can't we see the evidence of performance even in 1 year if it's a responsive government?
Well, Nancy, thank you very much. Well, Prof has said that, but I think I disagree if you say you're not going to judge our president just 1 year in office. Then that's why we have this segmentation in our educational system, even in Prof's university, where you have those in year 1, year 2, year 3. You're not going to wait until you get to the final year until you're given a result. So every year there's an assessment, even in the primary school. And so much as I do agree with some of the things Prof has said, let's just be very simple with our analysis. Number one, the president's speech on 29th of May 2011. The time for lamentation is over. This is the era of transformation. So what it means is that the only place that I've seen lamentation being constant is in the Bible. It's just the book after Ruth, and then that followed by Jeremiah. But I think Nigerians, at this point in time, the question we need to ask ourselves, I'm just going to zero in my statements today on that. Are we lamenting or we're not lamenting? Whether we like it or not, Nancy, we still have a lot to do. The president, as our commander-in-chief, has so much to do. I'm just going to take 3 areas. Let's look at the issue of security. Look at the power sector. Even look at the education, that particular sector. I'm not too sure that we've seen so much. But again, the roadmap is quite encouraging. All we expect now is, and I listened to the speech of the president from the number 1 of the paragraph to about 71 or 72 of such.
That was 2 days ago.
And 2 days ago. And some areas I was really impressed. But now let me also point out one thing, that I think there's a mistake that we've actually made in the system in our way of actually judging the president. Unfortunately, I went into the books and found out that the president does not have that fiat to carry on so much. So if we're actually going to look at how far a president has done pretty well in the governance of any nation, I think we should also be looking at the issue of getting the 3 arms of government, the legislature, the judiciary, and then the executive. Because if we're also going to look at it, then it's very important that the civil society, the Nigerian populace as a whole, also begins to look at what happens in the national.
But how fair is this your statement? Because the president of a country should have that kind of charisma for change, isn't it?
Nancy, I'm coming. You see, in this way, I'm going to look at both the angle of criticism of the president and the angle of being fair and being realistic. Because it's just a statement that we must begin to look at. Now, you also know how these 3 arms of government work. Number 1, a group formulates the law, another interprets it, the other part implements. The president is on the side of implementation. But you've also noticed that in the past 1 year, you haven't had much of transparency on the part of formulation and even interpretation. And that's why you have everyone shouting and say, we need a total reform on the part of the judiciary. Because we're all looking at, I know why every one of us, we're saying the president hasn't done this, the president has not done this. But we should also look at another angle, that the president is also handicapped in this area because he cannot just wake up and say, I want to do this. I'll give you a simple example. At the reform of the port, if you notice, the president said, okay, you have about 14 agencies at the port. What are we going to do? Let's reduce these agencies to about 7 or 4 or 5. Of course, you notice the next day, the House of Representatives said, no, why are you doing this? It's just one of the things. But let me get back to your question, Nancy. So there's a reason. We have every reason to analyze. We have every reason to look at the performance of our president because he is the chief executive, so to say, of the company called Nigeria. I'm not too sure that anyone on the issue of security, which is very, very important, absolutely very important, we still have a lot. We expect so much from the president. On the issue of agriculture, I'm very, very, very much in support of his statement on the 29th May May 29th May 2011, where he talked about the transformation in the agricultural sector. All I expect now is how do you carry everyone along? Now, you have the issue of the launch of the agricultural transformation agenda, followed by that the Transformation Implementation Committee. Now, if you also look at the unemployment ratio or the rate, particularly the active or the productive group between 15 and 65, you notice that that is almost 53 or 54%, which is pretty high. So, like Prof actually said, if we're always saying that our economy, the president said in his speech that our economy is growing with about 7.5%. But then if you also look at the unemployment rate,
it's been growing
to 3.9 or thereabout. And then compare that with 2010, 2009, it's pretty high. So how do you measure this so-called growth? If you remember, one of the governors in the South, I think it was South, Adams Oshomole, wondered, why are we getting this figure when we say our economy is growing, yet the unemployment rate is pretty high? So, Nancy, to be honest, and to answer your question so that I also allow Prof to contribute, we really have every reason to judge the president, even if it's one day in office. Because the day you take, the day as in president, you've actually taken the oath of office. You've become the president of that country. So everyone you've taken your decision, you've made your appointments, you open yourself for scrutiny by Nigerians.
No, it will not also be fair if we don't look at the issue of insecurity or the insurgency that engulfed the country in the last 1 year, or probably since 2010 when we started having bombing explosions and all of that. Do you think that probably that has drowned Mr. President so much that he may not even begin to attend to some other things? Was it about 2 weeks ago on the show? I talked about the economy of the North. No one is talking about it, and I'm not particularly happy about that. Why? Because the northern part of the country contributes so much in terms of agricultural produce and all of that. But the economy of the North right now is at a standstill. As at the last time, banks rarely open, and of course if banks don't open, you wonder the kind of business activities that will be going on. The night economy in the North is down now. The insecurity issue, don't you think that President Jonathan, this has engulfed him so much that at the end of the day, 1 year, most of his 1 year was battling insecurity?
Thank you, Nancy. Before I answer that question, I want to defend myself from this man who tried to say what I did not say. When I said we cannot judge the president in a summary fashion for a 4-year program in 1 year, I said we have to contextualize it. That was why I said he said he would do this within this time frame, and this is what he has done. So that is that. On the security issue, it is a major, as a matter of fact, if you ask me, I would say our problems center on 3 things. 1, insecurity. 2, corruption. 3, unemployment. But let me come back to your question, because they are related in a way. I think, in all fairness, I don't think Mr. President was expecting this kind of mid-air turbulence which he met. Nobody, I don't think anybody, any fair-minded person will think that our own Nigeria will be so terrorized the way it has been terrorized in the last couple of months. Let's say 2 years back, 2 years down the line, nobody would have imagined that people will be suicide bombers in Nigeria, will be doing the kind of thing they have been doing. So I don't think anybody pretends about. Even Mr. President himself, at one point he said that the problem of the government is that even some members of the government are directly or indirectly sympathetic to this group. That shows you how dazed or how disturbed the government issue was. So nobody will deny this fact. However, despite that, people expected that the government should have done more than what it has done so far. That's my feeling. The government should have done more than what it should have done so far. It's not easy, particularly given the configuration, as the government itself admitted that even officials are not helping matters. So in a situation like that, it's not easy. But I thought the government would have been faster in handling the situation. And as you said, a greater part of the northern economy is shut down. In Kano area, at least during one survey, we came to realize that particularly some of these Chinese companies and some other, Indian companies and all that, who wanted to have fresh investment in Kano area are relocated or just kept everything on hold. In Maiduguri area and that axis, nothing is going on. So the economy has been badly, particularly in certain parts of the north, the economy has been badly affected, and it's not good for anybody.
Okay, let's talk about institutional strengthening under President Jonathan. When was it that President Obama visited Ghana? Just a while after I became president,
yes,
isn't it?
Yes.
That should be in 2008 or early 2009.
2009.
And yes, and something President Obama said in Ghana, that Africa, we need to strengthen our institutions. Do you think that we've seen agencies and institutions more strengthened under Jonathan's eyes? Because at the end of the day, the ministry, department, and agencies do have their different functions, but everyone is working towards a common goal. Do you think that institutions and agencies have been strengthened under President Jonathan 1 year on? Because that is really key. Agencies like the EFCC, the ITCPs, a lot of agencies though.
Well, Nancy, just to also contribute a bit to what the Prof said about security, I think it's quite an unfortunate scenario that has actually played itself out in this country, where I wouldn't say the president may have been overwhelmed by what he's seen, but because I mean the most important thing is this: the moment you assume that responsibility of presidency, the president of the federal, there are so many you should expect. And if we've been told that the president grew along the line, deputy governor to governor, governor to vice president to acting to president, you should have expected that. He should have actually studied the situation. The security situation is quite alarming. But unfortunately, the approach